Welcome back. The title of this mini lecture is Immigration in American History. Now, largely we're going to focus this on the second half of the 19th century and into the early 20th century. And we're going to talk about 5 terms that, as you read more about the process of immigration at this time, that you should kind of key in on to get a better sense of the topic. Let's dig in. The first term for us is old versus new. Scholars of immigration and scholars of immigration history overall usually would kind of categorize the second half of the 19th century and into the early 20th as a time period in which those who were migrating to the United States, their demographics began to change. Particularly in the first half of the 19th century, you have of course, sad realities of the enslavement of individuals from the continent of Africa and them coming to the United States. That would eventually end, but largely those who are coming into the U.S. are primarily going to be from Europe, primarily Northern Europe, Western Europe, largely from Germany or England or Ireland, right? So part of this as well, Northern European, communities across Scandinavia, so the like. In the second half of the 19th century, primarily after the American Civil War, that changes. So what you end up with is communities from parts of Central or Eastern Europe, Russia, and Southern Europe as well. So Russia, Italy, Poland, right, this kind of thing, and lots of other groups as well. Some from Mexico, others, individuals coming from China, right, this kind of thing. And it was this dynamic of this older immigration, versus this kind of newer immigration that leads us into nativism, where you end up with many now second and third generation immigrants who become very particular about what it means to be American and how race is connected to that. And they begin to seek to restrict immigration. And this is where we get immigration restrictions for the first time, really within the American story. And that brings us to our second point. The Chinese Exclusion Act. Now, this is passed in the 1880s. This is designed to restrict individuals coming into the United States from China. Now, some could still come, business owning, this kind of thing. But it really reflected the rising nativism within America. It reflected a backlash against individuals of Chinese ancestry and their families, particularly against Chinese women. Although Chinese immigrants would still be able to arrive in America at this time, of course, they were met with daily discrimination and iniquity, which they endured. Now, our third point is Ellis Island. I don't know about all of you, but when I was growing up, this was all I heard about. Right? This was the only thing that I understood when it came to immigration. Was there only was one immigration station, and Ellis Island was the one place where everybody came in. No, but millions do, kind of come in through there at the end of the 19th and into the early 20th century. Ellis Island, in many ways, is kind of the platform whereby American immigration policy is being played out or meted out against these European communities largely who are coming to the U.S. Now, again, late 19th, early 20th century, outside of this restriction against individuals from China, and also against Japan, which we'll talk about in a second, largely you could come in if you could get here, which of course is a very interesting thing when it comes to the American story and our connections to immigration and immigration history. All right, fourth, Angel Island. Now, by the early 20th century, Angel Island is an island off of the coast, off of San Francisco, and it would become an immigration station right around 1910, and it would last for about 30 years or so. And this immigration station would process individuals coming in not only from China, but across South Asia as well, and from all over the world. Now, the Angel Island immigration station was far more restrictive, far more discriminatory, and far more difficult for many who came through it, as opposed to what existed with Ellis Island. Individuals would be detained there not for hours, but in many cases weeks, if not months, if not longer, before possibly being allowed entry into the United States. And the process of those who endured this detaining at Angel Island is something that scholars only in the last few years have only begun to better start to understand. There's a lot of good new work by Erica Lee, Judy Young, and many other historians on this, Drs. Erica Lee and Judy Young, on this. All right, number 5, gentleman's agreement. So by the early 20th century, the United States not only was restricting immigration coming in from China, but was also seeking to do so from Japan as well. And this gentleman's agreement was a process by which they would be able to achieve that, right? This sort of handshake agreement to limit the number of individuals coming in from Japan. All right, thanks so very much.